The Center, with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, friends, family, supporters, and enemies out there. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. Also, check us out on otwtube.com. That's otwtube.com. I was earlier today editing some things to put on there exclusively. So spent a lot of time in front of my computer today. Too much, in fact. So, but the reason I decided to come on was because I saw something very interesting. A story that I haven't seen. Actually, I don't think I've seen any black people cover, any black media cover, but is important because it is a First Amendment. Well, it's a freedom of speech situation, not a First Amendment thing. Thank you, brother. Because it's not occurring in America. So tonight's discussion, we're just going to talk about the global battle against censorship. And as someone who has had my social media curtailed as far as my reach in various platforms, here on YouTube, I put it like this, I probably have had close to a dozen videos and live streams taken down, all of it around C19. So, like, when you talk about internet censorship, that's something that piques my interest, because what I realized is that if people can't say the truth because the government doesn't like it, you're finished. There's just no way around this thing. Like, that's the last thing stopping any people from being enslaved. And so, that's why I decided to come on today and to cover these issues. So, first of all, let me greet everybody. Humble apologies for not greeting people. And don't be scared to smash the like button as you come in the building. But BB488 to brother, you got ripped off. BB488, straight black pride to brother Elijah. BB488, straight black pride to brother Kevin. Straight black pride to sister Nina. Let's see. I know I saw somebody else. This is Fonessa. Yeah, BB488, straight black pride says Fonessa. BB488, sister Najee. BB488, RBG. So, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start off with, because I got a lot of stuff loaded up, so I need to actually get started. Also, I plan to come on tomorrow and Thursday. It's the last week of Black August, so I'm just close out with a lot of content. I have no guarantees what'll take place in September. Right now, it's a matter of just being completely transparent. We are not getting we have a core constituency of support that we're getting, and I greatly appreciate that. But at right now, as far as views and everything, like, and just general analytics. We are, we're not seeing the growth. Not even, I mean, we're actually kind of shrinking a little bit. And I don't know if that's a matter of, we don't have an audience, or the algorithm, or the censorship. So I don't know what it is. And in fact, here's the thing. On Instagram, definitely losing a lot of followers, maybe up to like 20 followers since I've really been talking about this election thing. So that, I think, is organic. I think people don't really want to think, they want to just go along and feel good. And I'm gonna just be completely honest. I just have to tell people the truth. That's my job. That's it. That's my only job. Speak to warn the wicked from his wicked ways to save his life. After that, what I'm saying, if he died in his own iniquity, that's his fault. Like, I have nothing, what I'm saying? And that's where we're coming to. But before I go up on that tangent and add 15 unnecessary minutes to this program, I'm gonna get into this discussion. So what took place, I believe it was yesterday. The founder of Telegram, a man by the name of, let me get his name right, because I'm about to butcher his name, even though I've been looking at this stuff like literally all day. Pavel Durov. He's a Russian national who also has French citizenship. He was arrested in France, right, on some trumped up charges. Now, I know many times somebody's gonna say, man, all right, DC, so some Russian dude got arrested in France. Why in the what are you covering this? Like, this doesn't matter, right? This is how it works for those who don't know. Right? A lot of people fighting the last battle, especially a lot of black people. The simple reality is that in the wake of what happened during the pandemic, one of the things that was attacked was free speech. We see the consequences of that now, and we're gonna get to some stories regarding that. So when you see an attack again on free speech by attacking directly a company head and founder, you should pay attention, because if a country can, this guy's worth like 15 billion dollars. If a person worth that kind of money can be detained for, on trumped up charges and have their rights curtailed, what hope do you think you have? You see what I'm saying? Like, the stink rolls down the hill, and they've attacked someone that you would think would be at the top. So if the stink is rolling over him, I mean, let's be realistic here. Like, we're going to talk about later in the show, the Julian Assange thing. A lot of black people didn't pay attention to the Julian Assange thing. But let's be realistic. If Julian Assange had been free and able to do the stuff he would have done, there's a lot of things that happened in those 10 years from the time he was arrested until the time he was detained in an embassy, and all that other wild stuff that happened between that time and 2020 that would have never happened, right? There's some election things that would have never happened. There's this whole situation and what was going on in China and what was the real root of it. None of that stuff would have happened, or we would have known about it immediately, right? But instead, here we are. So let's get into the article, because we got a lot of articles and a lot of video, and I still want to try to get it done in the next 1 hour and 45 minutes or so. And y'all forgive me, my voice is a little more raspy than normal, which is kind of insane in and of itself. All right, so says, who is Telegram founder Pavel Durov, and why was he arrested? And this is from CNBC. It's a news channel. We have Mr. Durov. Said the chief executive officer of Telegram, Pavel Durov, was arrested at an airport on Saturday night outside Paris and placed in custody for alleged offenses related to his messaging app. The 39-year-old Russian-born billionaire was accused of failing to mitigate the misuse of his platform for criminal activities. Telegram has quoted concerns from numerous governments due to concerns it lacks sufficient content moderation tools to detect and remove illegal and harmful content. Now let's stop right here. This man has built his own company. He's built his own app. He's built a free speech platform. And now they're attacking him, saying that he doesn't have the tools necessary to moderate alleged illegal activity. All right, can we be honest here? How many of us have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat? I don't know. What's the other one that they attacked? TikTok. We've seen, you can go on those things, and if you know where to go, which most of my audience wouldn't know where to go because I don't know where to go. But we know for a fact that you can go on those platforms and find things that are unseemly, right? Maybe even illegal. Is anybody are any of these people being arrested? No. And we're going to see why this case is so important, because it's way deeper than what this article will say. Once we get through with this, we'll understand why this man was targeted specifically, why he was targeted specifically by this government, and it'll open up some eyes to some things going on way beyond what most people are going to talk about. So let me get back to the article. Now, it says the chief executive officer of Telegram, Pavel Durov, was arrested at an airport on Saturday night outside of Paris and placed in custody for alleged offenses related to the messaging app. The 39-year-old Russian-born billionaire was reportedly accused of failing to mitigate the misuse of his social media and messaging platform for criminal activity. The Paris Public Prosecutor's Office issued an arrest warrant for Durov in connection to an investigation opened on July 8th into organized crime, drug trafficking, fraud, and distribution of adult-oriented images of minors, inappropriate images of minors on the platform. Telegram said in the statement posted to X that it abides by EU laws and CEO Durov has nothing to hide. It is absurd to claim that a platform or its owner is responsible for abuse on the platform, the company said. Here are some key facts, according to CNBC, about Mr. Durov. Durov founded social network, VK. I'm just going to call it VK. I don't know what that is. Which was also referred to as Russia's version of Facebook in 2006. He subsequently left the company after a dispute with Kremlin owners on the network management. Durov had reportedly refused to cooperate with authorities on blocking late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny's page on the platform. Now let's stop right here. So just by him doing that, we see that he's always been a free speech advocate, even in his own country, Russia, where all these, like when they wanted to have some type of limitation on someone on this platform, he's just like, I'm not going to do that. And in fact, if it's come between me owning it and limiting people's free speech, I just won't even own anything. I just leave. So we see, his personality just based on that. It says, after stepping down from VK, Durov immigrated from Russia in 2014. He obtained citizenship on the Caribbean island archipelago of St. Kitts and Nevis, and after making a $250,000 donation to the sugar industry, Durov was granted French citizenship in August 2021. Now let's stop right here. I'll just be honest, man. Money makes things go around. The fact that he can just, because you would think, you're like, how's a Russian dude get citizenship on a Caribbean island? Yeah, he just pays for it. You know what I'm saying? He grease some palms and here you go. Right? Brother, you got ripped off. Got the super chat. Says, meanwhile, eHub, Twitter, Facebook, and other XXX sites, Craigslist, have all been used for child violations, yet no arrests there. I wonder why. Brother, more so than that we have information that people within the government are guilty of some of these crimes, and there's been no arrest of these people. So yeah. So there's that. Now, to get back to it, says in an interview with American commentator Tucker Carlson this year, Durov cited how he prioritizes freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and a free market. Whether it be his decision to leave BK over a decade ago or his personal life, freedom comes first. He sounds very American of him, weirdly enough. He founded Telegram in 2013, marketing it as an uncensored and neutral platform accessible to people from all walks of life and views. Durov is estimated to have a net worth of $15.5 billion with $1 billion, according to Forbes, which somehow makes him only the 121st wealthiest person on Earth. Let's just stop right here and think about this. Being a multi-billionaire doesn't even get you into the top 100 nowadays. Like, that's insane to me, but hey. Anyway, now, says, why is France involved? Said with over 800 million users globally, Durov, a French citizen, has built a massive platform in the form of Telegram. So I didn't know it had that many users. Citizens in countries with repressive regimes have been known to use the app to share updates and news, holding discussions in real time. It is also popular in both Russia and the Ukraine, where it is used by government officials and the military on both sides of the conflict. Stop right here. Now you are beginning to see why he is being attacked and his platform is being attacked. Now, says, now French prosecutors are probing Durov for complicity in disseminating child essay material and in drug trafficking, fraud, abetting organized crime transactions, and refusing to share information with investigators when required by law. Following news of Durov's detention, Russia's embassy in France said in a message posted on Telegram that it immediately asked the French authorities for clarification and reasons and demanded to ensure the protection of the rights and provide consular access. Now, here's the thing. Mr. Durov, I don't think he revoked his, renounced his citizenship, but I find it interesting that Russia reached out immediately. And of course, we know it's a lot different when Russia reaches out for you to help, as opposed to like St. Kitts. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was his he still got connections in Russia and they were like, all right, hold up, we got you. Or he realized, yeah, I might need some help with this one. I don't know. Now, says, following news of, I read that. Say, why concerns about Telegram are more unique. Concerns over illicit and harmful material on social media aren't new, and regulators globally have been pushing to regulate large tech companies over the risk their platforms pose to society. However, with Telegram, there are more specific concerns, allegedly. It is known for having a more relaxed approach to content moderation compared to other major social media platforms, such as Meta, Facebook, Instagram services, Google, YouTube, and ByteDance's TikTok. Now let's stop right here. Here's the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is, up until the time of the scamdemic, most of these platforms were pretty much the same. Then certain platforms, as we'll see later in the show, were pressured by the United States government and others to censor people about certain ideals. Having used Telegram for a while, even though there's another site that I actually prefer even over Telegram, but that's a whole nother discussion. They allow you, they weren't in the censoring bag. I'll just put it that way. They weren't following along. So really that's what this really should be saying, but you know, it's CNBC, so they have their own slant. It says Telegram has courted criticisms, financial penalties, and service restrictions from numerous governments due to concerns it lacks sufficient content moderation tools to detect and remove illegal and harmful content. In its statement, Telegram said moderation practices were within industry standards and constantly improving. The platform has also gained a reputation for being used by fraud gangs, drug dealers, and even designated terrorist organizations, which have previously used the service to claim responsibility for attacks. Notably, users are only required to provide a phone number to register for Telegram, not a name, date of birth, or any other identifiable information. This has made it prone to scammers who set up fake profiles and exploit them and convince people to hand over personal or financial information. Telegram also offers users the ability to hold end-to-end encrypted conversation through its secret chats feature, much like WhatsApp and Apple's iMessage. It means no one but the sender and recipient can view messages and is of a major concern of government scrutinizing the app. All right, stop right here. Governments have no rights to your information. I mean, yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Again, this is a non-American citizen actually creating one of the more American platforms you can have, because in reality, the government having access to your DMs and things like that is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Now we know that stuff is actually taking place, but it is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. How this is able to take place and it hasn't been challenged, I'm not a legal expert. Maybe it has been challenged and the challenge has failed, but I know I can read the Constitution and break it down in the simplest terms. And since 9/11, the government has been violating the rights of citizens just one by one. You know what I'm saying? They're just knocking down the Bill of Rights one by one in various ways, shapes, forms, and fashions. Now, so that's our introduction to Mr. Durov. So we got another article. All right, we'll go to that. And this is Time Magazine, weirdly enough. I don't think I use them very often. It says, while the arrest of Telegram's Pavel Durov is sparking outrage. And man, the people that they have underneath this. Anyway, the arrest of a tech CEO has reignited fierce global debates about the limits of digital freedom of speech and how much responsibility social media companies should bear over content on their platform. On August 24th, Pavel Durov, CEO of the messaging app Telegram, was arrested at a Paris airport as part of a larger investigation by French authorities into criminal activity on the platform. Allegedly. In a press release, French prosecutor wrote that Telegram had refused to cooperate with authorities in their efforts to stop the spread of drugs, money laundering, and other illicit activities. French President Emmanuel Macron denied that arrest was politically motivated. Now, since I'm sure Mr. Macron will never see this. I'm going to call cap on that. Everything, Mr. Garvey said, everything is political. So, I mean, that's just, I mean, come on. Let's be realistic here. We're not that naive. But, back to the article, it says, but the arrest has sparked backlash from some users who decried that they considered it to be government overreach and censorship. Edward Snowden called the arrest an assault on basic human rights of free speech and association. Here's what to know about Telegram and the implications of Durov's arrest. Now, it's so weird that Snowden, an American, had to leave America because of his advocacy of not only free speech, but the Fourth Amendment, of the violations of it, and was an illegal search and seizure, I believe, the Fourth Amendment. So that is one of the things that he is known for. Now, says, let me go back. Okay, we know about him. We know when he started. The Telegram allowed users to chat privately in the groups. Actually, we know that. Said, oops, messed up. All right, there, here we go. It says, but a lack of moderation, Telegram has allowed far-right extremists, including ISIS is considered far-right, if you say so, and the Proud Boys to communicate and recruit, as it has allowed groups to protect their anonymity and evade law enforcement in a way that Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube has not. Durov actually embraced this type of usership. I think that privacy ultimately, and our rightful privacy, is more important than our fear of bad things happening like terrorism, he said at 2015 TechCrunch event, adding that he shouldn't feel guilty about ISIS using Telegram. A few months later, though, Telegram announced it had blocked dozens of ISIS-related channels. Yeah, that means somebody knocked on his door. You know, when you're young, feel strong and bold, but every now and then somebody knock on your door and you're like, okay. That's obviously what happened there. It says in the decades since, hate groups have flourished on Telegram. The British advocacy group Hope Not Hate wrote in 2021 that Telegram was home to the most extreme, genocidal, and violently anti-Semitic content. Stop right there. Y'all knew eventually. It would pop up. That's all I'm gonna say. If you've been listening to me for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what emoji to use. You knew who would be complaining. You knew who would be trying to stop simple free speech. You knew who would be making up stories about this and that and terrorists and blah and yada yada yada. We knew it was coming. I hadn't even read the article. I knew it was coming. I'm like, it's coming sooner or later. And there it is. I have nothing else to read on this article. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bring up this video as soon as I can find it and let y'all see the discussion on Mr. Pavel and his arrest. So let's put a pause on the music and check out the video.
Founder of the Telegram messaging app, Pavel Durov, has been arrested at a French airport. Reports say authorities have been investigating a lack of moderators on the app, which they say allows criminal activity to take place. Our correspondent Will Vernon explains what we know about the arrest.
Yeah, this is coming from a number of French media who quote sources in French law enforcement who say that Pavel Durov was arrested on Saturday evening last night at an airport near Paris. He'd apparently arrived on his private jet from Azerbaijan, and they're saying that he was arrested on the basis of an arrest warrant that was issued in connection with Telegram's failure to moderate illegal content and cooperate with law enforcement over drug trafficking, child sexual content and fraud. This is just coming from French media, we should stress. Of course, Telegram would almost certainly deny all of those allegations, but we'll have to see now whether he could appear in court today. French media are saying he could be indicted today, and of course what the reaction will be. You mentioned that the Russian Foreign Ministry, they've said that diplomats in Paris are urgently working in connection with his arrest.
Over the years, we haven't heard a lot about him in public. He's been quite a private person, but more recently he did a long interview with Tucker Carlson in America, and so has come out more in public, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He was quite vocal when he was still in Russia. You mentioned that in 2014 he fell out with the authorities. According to him, the Kremlin tried to basically take control of the company. They tried to force VK, which is the company that he created, Russia's version of Facebook, to hand over personal data from of pro-Ukrainian protesters, anti-Kremlin protesters. According to Durov, the company refused to do that, and he was basically forced to sell it to a company that had close links to the Kremlin. VK is now almost totally under the control of the Russian security services.
That is our correspondent, Will Vernon. Just a line that we get.
All right. So, that is our report. Come on, brother. Try not to. So y'all stop making me laugh. I can't even get to the article because y'all making me laugh. So that is, and I just want to see what they were saying in Britain. So, of course, one of the basic things that they are saying is, and this is the type of attack on a person that it's ironic, because the people who are accusing him of these things are probably the people that, anyway, that's talking about the type of illicit activity that they're saying on there, which is the most despicable things that they're saying are on Telegram, which we spoke about. There's a lot of places, like there's a lot of social media that if you turn the dark corners of the internet, you'll find stuff. So treating him as if it's some, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I know it's politically motivated, and acting like what Telegram is doing is so much worse because there's so much more criminality and so much more illicit stuff on it. I don't believe that. But anyway, let's get to this part real quick. It says for several years, the European Union, which has some of the strictest content policies in the world, has been trying to wrangle Telegram and its large European user base into cooperation with its rules. In 2022, the EU adopted the Digital Service Act, forcing Telegram to comply with its transparency and moderation standards, including taking proactive steps to police harmful and illegal content. Ultimately, it was the French government which decided to move against Durov, arresting him and accusing him of a complicity in a range of criminal acts. Telegram responded in a statement by asserting that the company abides by the EU laws and Durov has nothing to hide. A spokesperson for the European Commission told Euronews that Durov's arrest did not relate to any sort of breach of the Digital Services Act. Okay, if it's not a breach of that act, then what is it? Like, you know what I'm saying? So this just goes to show. Now, we're going to move forward to our next article because I just thought this was very important. And this is from Political EU, which I didn't even know there was a Political EU. But now that I know there's a Political EU, I'll be checking them out more often. It says Russians do everything via Telegram, right? Pavel Durov's arrest upends what? Kremlin military communications. Are we starting to get a picture here? One thing, because my audience is intelligent and we've been interacting and breaking down stuff for a long time, we know that when we see stuff happen, it's usually things happening on a multiplicity of levels. And so this is more than just a free speech thing. This is more than just a, let's say, a law enforcement thing. We're now getting into the realm of the military and leading back to the war in Ukraine, because of course the Russian Federation and the Ukraine are currently at war. So let's check this out, see what it says. It says, although Durov publicly distances himself from Moscow, his platform has become vital for Russian army coordination in the Ukraine, right? It says French authorities detained Pavel, we know about that. And they claim, all right, let's fast forward past that. It says that's because Telegram, it says, but the immediate freakout came from Russia. That's because Telegram is widely used by the Russian military for battlefield communications, thanks to problems with rolling out its own secure comm system. It's also the primary vehicle for pro-war military bloggers and media, as well as millions of ordinary Russians. They practically detained the head of communication for the Russian army, Russian military blogger. Oh yeah, I'm definitely not trying to say his name. Povernuty Nazivoyny said in a Telegram statement. All right, we got through that. The blog site Diva Mayora said that Russian specialists are working on an alternative to Telegram, but that the Russia's Army Main Communications Directorate has not shown any real interest in getting such a system to Russian troops. The site said that Durov's arrest may actually speed up the development of an independent comms system. So let me start right here. One thing that I know for a fact, right? Because there are certain channels that I watch that cover that war. The data that people are sending out for pictures from the front line, maps of different areas, like stuff that they don't want you to see, like equipment and people blown up, where the trenches are, and all of this military related stuff. A large portion of that has been sent out through Telegram. So Telegram is one of the few ways that you can really actually see what is going on in that war. And I'm gonna say this: the new, how can I put it? The level of destruction and the picture, the way it's presented, that war is kind of weirdly claustrophobic for 21st century warfare. So they're using 21st century technology. They're using drones and, of course, missile systems and so forth and so on, everything. But yet it's still very close quarter, and they dig in trenches like it's 1914. And it's surreal to see if you haven't been in combat. I'm gonna be honest, it's just like, this is war in the 21st century. Yeah, so, and that war is such that people who are veterans who have fought in the wars, like people that fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, went over there to fight against Russia, and they just ran out there because they were like, oh nah, this ain't what I thought it was, right? So that type of information is getting out via this platform. Now, back to the article. It says that Durov's arrest may have political grounds and be a tool for gaining access to the personal information of Telegram users, the deputy speaker of the Russian Duma, Vladislav Devankov, said in a Telegram statement. This cannot be allowed. If the French authorities refuse to release Pavel Durov from custody, I propose making every effort to move him to the UAE or the Russian Federation with his consent, of course. Their worry is that Durov may hand over encryption keys to the French authorities, allowing access to the platform and any communication that users thought was encrypted. Now let's stop right here. BB40 to Raw Ito Vital. That's what they said. There's no doubt. That's what they want. They want him to give over the encryption keys so that they can break into it, and they can not only get information from regular people and whatever criminal syndicates, quote unquote, they're looking for, but they can get information, military information from the Russian military. Again, Macron said it's not a political decision, yada, yada, blah, blah. The Russian embassy has demanded that it get access to Durov, but the Kremlin has so far not issued a statement on the arrest. Before saying anything, we should wait for the situation to become clearer, said Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. However, officials and law enforcement agencies were instructed to clear all their communications from Telegram, the pro-Kremlin channel Baza reported. Everyone who is used to using the platform for sensitive conversations should delete this conversation right now and not do it again. Durov has been shut down to get the keys, and he's going to give them. Well, all right then. So, based upon this advice from Mr. Who was this again? From Mr. Peskov. I guess. Oh no, not that. That wasn't Mr. Peskov. Excuse me. That was Margarita Simonyan. He says Durov has been shut down to get the keys, and he's going to give them up. So I'm just going to say this for any Telegram users out there who are used to being able to freely talk about certain things and not worry about it. Apparently, you're going to have to find an alternative, because I mean, that's a warning from Russian officials, basically, to like, get your sensitive stuff off here. So that's not good. That's not good at all. So we're gonna move forward in this. It says that trying to see who said this. Telegram denied accusation that it has allowed dangerous content, saying it abides by EU laws, including the Digital Services Act, that assisted its moderation meets industry standards and is constantly improving. It is absurd to claim that the platform or its owners responsible for the abuse of their platform. Almost 1 billion users globally use Telegram as a means of communication and a source of vital information. Telegram said in a statement. Tokar argues that Telegram has become so popular not just because it's convenient and fast, as well as having its own cryptocurrency and many free functions, but because it allows access to the seeming world of illicit activities. They've mentioned that so many times that I'm just going to move that into the propaganda category. You know what I'm saying? So I am going to move past this article and let's see. Now, I haven't talked about this yet much, but why France? Right? Well, let's take a look at it. New details on the role of Western contractors in the Kursk assault. Since the initiation of Ukrainian-led assault on Russian Kursk region on I want to say October so bad, I don't know why, August 6th, which has seen an estimated 15,000 personnel penetrate unprecedentedly deep into Russian territory, a growing number of details have emerged regarding the roles of personnel from NATO member states in support of the operation. Western advisors, logistics, combatants, which means people who are shooting at people, and other personnel operating a range of complex, newly delivered hardware have played a central and growing role in the war effort since early 2022, ranging from British Royal Marines deployed in frontline combat operations in 2022 to SAS advisors who have reportedly played a significant role in supporting armored offensive against Russian positions. With many of Ukraine's most elite combat units and much of its top-end military equipment had been committed to the assault on Kursk, the deployment of Western personnel to support the assault likely include both contractors and active servicemen, has been in line with broader trends seen throughout the war. Now, says the Forward Observations Group American military organization has notably confirmed the deployment of its personnel in Kursk. Stop right here. Y'all want me to read that again? I'm going to read that again. The Forward Observations Group American military organization is in Kursk. Y'all don't get it. American troops are invading Russian territory as I speak. I've been warning you all about World War III so long that World War III done started while I was talking. Yeah, I'm seeing that on your nightly news, have you? America's at war with Russia. It's no longer proxy war. American troops are in Russian territory. Right? Let's get back to the article. Now, it says that they posted their pictures in the region, which has been confirmed by geolocation data. The Forward Observation Group, the status of which remains highly opaque, has been involved in operations in the Ukrainian theater for well over 2 years, although a portion of its manpower was reportedly diverted to Israel to support operations in the Gaza Strip in late 2023. So American troops are also in Gaza killing Palestinians. All right. Supplementing this photographic evidence, Ukrainian personnel involved in the Kursk operation have themselves attested to the presence of personnel from NATO member states in the offensive. A notable example cited by Russian sources was a serviceman from the 80th Airborne Assault Brigade, Ruslan Podoratsky, who stated, "When we crossed the border with Russia, at first I thought there was some line noise, but then I distinguished what they were saying. They were speaking English, Polish, and maybe French." Stop it. Brothers and sisters, the reason that they have Mr. Pavel Durov is because France and NATO and America are in open war with Russia. You understand what I'm saying? See, nobody's talking about this. And then, brother, you got Rick Off said, hold up. Let me bring that up. Oh, let me, all right. Work with me now. Hence why Trump presidency is out of the question. Because what has Trump said? Now, I'll answer your question in a minute, brother. What has Trump said? He said, if I come into office, I'm going to end this war, and we're not going to have wars, and we have to, focus on America first. And I mean, that makes sense if you love America. But the so-called deep state is listening to that like, oh, no, you're not. Because the war's already started, buddy. Right. So, brother Ryan, shoot me an email and I'll shoot you this article. So we can do it like that. And the email is going across the bottom here. Now, let me get back to the article. Now, it says, where was I? I said into the walkie-talkie, repeat, hearing some gibberish when they had already taken positions in the Kursk region. They also went on the air with their superiors, with ours as well. I also heard them saying something in English and in some other language. something about houses and chaos. Now, this is the forward observation group personnel in Israel with their faces blacked out. It says Russian military sources and civilians in areas held by Ukrainian and allied forces have made a number of separate reports on the operations of Western personnel in Kursk. Major General Apti Aladinov, Deputy Chief of Russian Armed Forces Main Military Political Department and commander of the Akhmat Special Forces Commando Unit, has stated that a large number of French and Polish military contractors were encountered during operations. Russian media outlets have consistently referred to Western contractors and volunteers in Ukraine as mercenaries, although this pejorative term has not been used to describe Russia's Wagner group. Villagers in Kursk have similarly attested to the presence of French and Polish-speaking personnel. The operations of Western personnel in Ukrainian theater have been increasingly widely reported by Russian and Western medias. Head of the U.S. Special Operations Command, General Brian Fenton, for example, in May stated that the Pentagon had been learning about the ongoing war mostly through the eyes of our UK Special Operations partners, who he stated had been testing new approaches to modern warfare in the theater. He noted as an example British Special Operations Unit observing and advising the use of drones and the way a ship in the Black Sea navigates. 5 months prior, in December 2023, Polish journalist Zbigniew revealed that he had been providing details by Polish officials on the operation of British forces, uniformed with weapons in the theater, played important roles in tracking positions of Russian artillery. Now, he further revealed that Polish special forces had been in the theater from the war's very first stages. Regarding efforts by Western militaries to provide deniability for their operations, a Polish officer informed him, "We worked out a formula for our presence in Ukraine. We were simply sent on paid leave. Politicians pretended not to see this." Further details were subsequently provided in February 2024 when German Chancellor Olaf Scholz confirmed that British special forces in Ukraine were providing vital support to facilitate launches of Storm Shadow cruise missiles against Russian targets. Russian forces have notably singled out Western forces in Ukraine for targeting, a notable example being January 16th missile strike on the headquarters of predominantly French European foreign fighters, causing at least 80 casualties, 60 of which were killed. The Russian state media reported that these personnel were highly trained specialists who work on specific Western systems too complex for the average Ukrainian conscript, which put some of the most lethal and long-range weapons in Ukrainian arsenal out of service until more specialists are found to replace them. Brothers and sisters, this is not just a First Amendment issue. This is a World War III issue that we're seeing waged on multiple fronts, including the information front and the communications front, and it's affecting people globally. So the idea that you can hide from this war, you can't even hide from this war in your phone or on your computer, because the war has found you if you use Telegram, right? Now, it should be alarming to anyone listening to this, not about the Telegram thing. Yes, that should be alarming because that's a free speech thing. You're an American, you believe in free speech, that's alarming. The fact that NATO troops are on Russian soil, and I was watching Scott Ritter, who, if y'all know, he has contacts with Russia, and he's the guy that they sent, I think it was the FBI. They sent the FBI to his house, but I can't remember who they had that came to him and took his, he was getting ready to get on a plane. They came and took his passport and took him to the back room to work him over a little bit. And then they sent the FBI to his house, you know what I'm saying, after that. So this thing is way hotter than we think. And I was watching him, and he said that Putin, because of things like this and some other things that are going on with the Kursk offensive, that Putin has decided that it's time to take the gloves off. And he's called like y'all know how people in charge, like for those of y'all street dudes, you know how an OG got a person that he calls in when he ain't playing no more, when it's time to do unsavory things that most people, no matter how hard they are, aren't willing to do. Like Putin has called that man to the Kursk region and just told him, you off the leash, do what you got to. Okay, so this thing's about to get really ugly really fast, and I don't know how this thing with Durov is going to play out. I don't know, but I have no idea how this can go. Again, usually when you have this type of money and you have backing from a government as strong as Russia, usually you're able to walk away from things like this. But we've seen Julian Assange. I mean, he you know, he went through it. So how this plays out, I don't know. I'll keep an eye on it though. So real quick, because I see that we are. Did my music disappear? Okay, I was going to say what happened. But yeah, we're at the 1 hour mark, and just want to let you all know you're listening to The Center live. I'm your host, DC Radical One. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dcradical_ONE, on OTW2 at dcradical1, and you can donate via Cashapp at $DC_Radical1. And of course, you can email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. All right. I got so heated I had forgot that yeah. All right. Now, back here in America. Again, we started off dealing with censorship. We're dealing with censorship. Mark Zuckerberg, we're all familiar with him. Like almost everybody has Facebook or Instagram, or at least heard of it, knows somebody on it, whatever. Mark Zuckerberg says White House pressured Meta to censor COVID-19 content. This is from, again, CNBC. So business platforms are now having to talk about things like censorship and government overreach. Says the Biden administration pressured Facebook parent Meta to censor content related to COVID-19, social media giant CEO Mark Zuckerberg has alleged. Zuckerberg said it was ultimately Meta's decision to take down any content, but he noted that he believes the alleged government pressure was wrong. Zuckerberg said Meta made some choices with the benefit of hindsight and new information the tech giant would not make it. Now, I've watched some other people talk about this. I don't know why Zuckerberg is revealing this now, even though we already knew it, right? If you read, oh man, what's the book? There was a book on COVID-19, and they talked about this whole censorship situation, right? This was 2021, 2022, right? You got ripped off, help me out. You know the book I'm talking about, because I did a presentation. I did 2 presentations on the book. So we knew this, right? Maybe regular people didn't know, but we knew this. Why he's admitting it now and why he's putting it on the table now, I'm not sure if he's trying to get ahead of lawsuits. I'm not sure if he's trying to hedge his bets just in case Mr. Trump survives long enough for there to be an election. The truth about COVID-19, right? Thank you, brother. I'm not sure. I haven't figured that part out yet. There's some other people that have talked about it. They probably have already put it out, but I'm not really sure what his motivation is. You know, I think that I'm gonna be honest, I think Zuckerberg is a very unscrupulous person. But what's interesting is that he's saying this. I haven't heard the government deny it. And if he's saying this, and we know it's true. We know it was true before he said it. I find it interesting that no one's asking about any other social media. But maybe they have, and I haven't been paying attention because I've been on this Durov thing. That I don't know. But I'll just say this very quickly. I'm not even sure what the rules are as far as COVID on YouTube are now, but I've had, again, maybe I said this earlier, about a dozen videos taken from the rallies, live coverage of rallies. We just literally just covering the rally, and that's just like, Fight the Mandate rally. They just like, nope, they took that down. One time I just read an article that said that a flight attendant, this was early on, who had received the injection, and he passed away. And I never said, because at that time, this was when the injection was new. I didn't really know anything about it. I just found the article interesting because they were claiming that he took the injection for his job, and then he passed away. And so I literally, all I did was read the article. That I didn't do anything else. I didn't add any commentary. I didn't even have enough information to add any commentary. Right? I read the article. I showed some video. People talked about him and how much they loved him, how wonderful he was, and how much he loved his job. It was a relatively young black dude. And then, that video stayed up for like 2 years. And then I just looked one day and it was gone. And it's just like, okay, So I'm just wondering when the other dominoes will fall, when the other big tech companies will admit the censorship coming from the government. But all right, let's get back to it. Says the Biden administration pressured Facebook, Meta, to censor content related to COVID-19. The social media giant CEO Mark Zuckerberg alleged. He stated, he didn't make no allegations, adding that he regrets some decisions taken relating to the U.S. government's request. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our team for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our team when we didn't agree. Zuckerberg wrote in a letter to the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee. The letter was posted on the committee's Facebook page and its account on X media platforms on Monday. A Meta spokesperson confirmed the letter's authenticity to CNBC. Zuckerberg said it was ultimately Meta's decision to take down any content, but he noted that he believes the alleged government. Wait a minute, why do they keep putting alleged? No, the government, the Biden administration's pressure, right, was wrong. I regret that we were not more outspoken, Zuckerberg says. Now you can put the allegedly on that part. But anyway, NBC News has reached out to the White House for comment Tuesday morning, but did not immediately receive a response. Not a surprise. In a statement to Politico, the White House said, "When confronted with a deadly pandemic, the administration encouraged responsible actions to protect public health and safety. Our position has been clear and consistent. We believe tech companies and other private actors should take into account the effects their actions have on the American people while making independent choices about the information they present." That's a contradictory statement, but anyway, let's move forward. Zuckerberg said Meta made some choices that were, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, the tech giant would not make again. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction. And we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. Sure you are. Sure. I call cap because I've been on Instagram for a long time, and I've been shadow banned so long that I forgot what it's like to not be shadow banned. But I digress. In August 2021, Facebook said it removed more than 20 million posts related to COVID-19 for violating its content rules across the main social network site and Instagram. That year, the White House criticized social media firms, including Facebook, for allowing so-called misinformation, or also known as the truth, about what was going on. Zuckerberg's letter underscores the ongoing debate about the extent to which social media firms should moderate content. The House Judiciary Committee, which is chaired by Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, has alleged that big tech firms colluded with the government to censor speech. That's exactly what we said. I happen to agree with him. I don't think much of the guy, but gotta agree with him. Zuckerberg also discussed his position on the upcoming U.S. presidential vote, noting that he made contributions via the Chan-Zuckerberg initiative toward electoral infrastructure during the previous round at the polls. He said he will not be doing that for the upcoming election. My goal is to be neutral and not play a role one way or another, or to even appear to be playing a role. Okay, he's hedging his bets and appearing on both sides of the issue. All righty. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to find the video that talks about Mr. Zuckerberg, and then we're going to move forward. Let's pause that. Let's check out this video.
We do turn now to a story breaking overnight. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg claims he was pressured by the White House to censor content related to COVID-19 during the pandemic. Aaron Katursky joins us now with details. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning to you, Whit. For years, critics have taken aim at Facebook for silencing views that challenge the general consensus in the medical community, especially about the origin of COVID-19. Now, Facebook's founder surprisingly says they're right. This morning, Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg admitting he bowed to pressure from the Biden administration to censor content. The Facebook founder issuing a letter to the House Judiciary Committee that said senior administration officials pushed the social media platform to censor posts about COVID-19 and expressed a lot of frustration when the company resisted. Zuckerberg saying, "I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it." Adding, "I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again." President Biden was asked about misinformation online in the summer of 2021.
On COVID misinformation, what's your message to platforms like Facebook?
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people.
Biden later walked back the comment, insisting he wasn't attacking Facebook. Overnight, the White House responded to Zuckerberg's letter. "Our position has been clear and consistent. We believe tech companies and other private actors should take into account the effects their actions have on the American people, while making independent choices about the information they present." Zuckerberg going on to express regret for demoting content related to corruption allegations against Hunter Biden ahead of the 2020 election, alleging the FBI warned information circulating online was a Russian disinformation operation. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. Zuckerberg went on to say the company has changed its policies and processes to make sure it doesn't happen again. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan celebrating the letter, calling it a big win for free speech. Zuckerberg's letter first appeared in the Wall Street Journal. And Whit, there really is a tension going on here between the government and big tech over how content on social media should be policed and whether conservative voices often get silenced.
Absolutely.
Now, that was that. And I mean, it's nothing else to say to that. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to move forward to our next story. By the way, I certainly forgot to load up a video dealing with the French and NATO in Russia, but man, we're just going to bypass that. We're good. Now, we're going to go to RFK Jr. because, of course, he's been in the news. Because he of his aligning with Trump. This says judge rules RFK Jr. can sue Biden administration over alleged censorship of charity that questions vaccines. The decision came just days before Kennedy suspended his struggling presidential campaign and endorsed former President Trump. So let's check this out. A federal judge ruled Tuesday Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can sue the Biden administration over alleged social media censorship of his children's health defense charity, which questions the safety and efficacy of vaccines. The court finds that Kennedy is likely to succeed on his claim that suppression of content posted was caused by actions of government defendants, and there's substantial risk that he will suffer similar injury in the future. The lawsuit alleges the government had pressured social media giants like Facebook, X, and YouTube to censor content that the government, considered misinformation. Let's stop right here. Let's stop right here really quickly, because it's very important here that be before they to Brother Tony. It's very important to understand that once you place the censorship on the government and not simply on the companies, it is now a violation of the First Amendment, and in which case then the lawsuits towards the government can take place. Then we can start getting into discovery and seeing what the government knew, right? And why they were censoring things. Because see, if we could get to what the government knew, then we can get to what the government was hiding. And then we can get to the truth, right? Now, I'm sure that Mr. Biden will take a long nap before all that stuff is allowed to come out. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to bring that up. Now, let me get back to the article. Says, as we roll down, critics of the charity have called it anti-vaccine. What's your point? You know what I'm saying? Like, they say that like it's something derogatory. Anyway, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have said that vaccines, including the latest vaccines, are safe and effective. Now, that's all well and good that they said that. What's interesting is when Mr. Kennedy endorsed Mr. Trump right before Miss Tulsi Gabbard also endorsed Mr. Trump, one of the positions that he was wrangling for was to be in charge of Health and Human Services, which would put him over the former position that Mr. Fauci had, and also give him access to the data and documentation that has thus far been hidden from the public from Big Pharma. So, if there was ever a reason to stop Mr. Trump from winning, or yet another reason, we've gone over multiple reasons why chances of Mr. Trump breathing, let alone winning, are have to be called into question. We haven't even gotten into that, whatever investigation that they're doing on the attempt on Mr. Trump's life, because that's a whole nother ball of wax, right? And here's what people have to understand, because our people are very confused right now. It's not that the quote unquote deep state is against the Republicans, because they have bought the Republicans. It's that Mr. Trump can't be depended on to, you just never know what he's going to do, right? And it doesn't matter how much money they've given him. It doesn't matter how much they threatened him. It doesn't matter that they gave another indictment, because in reality, if they studied his personality, they would figure out the more you go against him, the more you try to indict him, and the more you try to attack him, the more determined he's going to be. Like this should be obvious, but again, I'm not here to advise anyone. I'm just doing my analysis of the news. So now you have two people of a similar personality, like wild card, but Mr. Kennedy is more focused on the things that he's focused on. And on this Big Pharma thing, he's just been like a bulldog that just attacks this thing continuously. You know what I'm saying? Way before, like, he's written a whole encyclopedia-sized book on Anthony Fauci. He's been on this thing with Big Pharma and food and vaccines and all this stuff, you know, as long as I know about them. Like, really, I know about them more for that than for politics. So a unification of these two people is a pain in the neck for a lot of folks. Let me get back to the article. It says Judge Terry Dowdy carefully and clearly analyzed the laws and facts and applied the framework from the U.S. Supreme Court's recent decision in Murphy versus Missouri regarding standing. CHD General Counsel Kim Rosenberg said after the ruling, referring to a similar case brought against the government. The court also firmly found in plaintiffs' favor that plaintiffs had not waived and indeed had affirmably raised direct censorship claims in addition to listener claims. Murphy versus Missouri was recently brought by the Republican attorneys general of Missouri and Louisiana, who accused the Biden administration of pressuring social media companies to censor certain content. A Louisiana court banned communication between the government and the companies, but the U.S. Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision in June, said the plaintiffs had insufficient evidence to prove direct injury and found no direct link to the government and censorship. Well, we see that's been blown completely out the water. Might want to revisit that part. Adding companies have a right to moderate their own content. They do have a right to moderate their own content, but they weren't allowed to moderate their own content because the government pressured them to. But I digress. Anyway, Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote in the decision that the evidence indicates that the platforms have independent incentives to moderate content and often exercise their own judgment. Didn't Trump put her on the court? So much for that part. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Brett Kavanaugh, Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson also voted against the plaintiffs. That's not a shock, which means that I guess that leaves wait, they said Chief Justice Roberts? Yeah, they did say that. Okay, that is somewhat of a shock. But anyway, well, who does that leave other than Clarence Thomas? Anyway, now, speaking of Mr. Kennedy, I want to rewind and go back, because why do they not like Mr. Kennedy? Why do they feel like he's such a threat? Besides what I have already said. Evie Faodier to Brother Jarake, good to see you. Let me go back and see. Y'all remember this? Here we go. RFK Jr. repeats, quote unquote, unfounded. Again, this is CNN, so you know how they roll. Claims while defending himself from anti-Semitism accusations. Let's just take a look at this real quick. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. defended himself Friday from accusations of anti-Semitism while repeated, allegedly unfounded claims about COVID-19 and vaccines. In an interview with CNN's Casey Hunt, Kennedy, an avid opponent of C-19 vaccines and public health policies that were intended to reduce the spread of the virus, pushed back on the notion that his previous remarks about COVID-19 that mentioned Jewish ancestry and histories were anti-Semitic. Asked about his comments in July, would he say COVID-19 was ethnically targeted? Is that what he said? Yeah, okay. Anyway, to spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. I don't actually remember the Chinese people part, but we'll go with allegedly. Kennedy acknowledged that some people would be disturbed by the comments, but he said he believed they certainly weren't anti-Semitic. I wish I hadn't said them, you know. What I said was true. Stop. Wait a minute. Let me read that again. Maybe I'm confused. Let me try that again. He said, I wish I had said them, you know. What I said is true. The reason I wouldn't talk publicly about this is that I know there's people out there who are anti-Semitic and can misuse any information. All right. Listen. This is him saying, hey, look, I'm not saying stuff that's anti-Semitic, but certain people have done things that are unsavory, right? That's like trying to moonwalk your way through the storm that you know is going to come your way, even though you know what he said is true, right? Because remember, and I don't have it up here, but mentioned it before, and I think we've sent it out. Actually, we probably sent it out on Telegram. So much for that. J. Bart Clausen's article is what Robert F. Kennedy was referring to. This is a peer-reviewed medical scientific document on the origin of the virus and who played a role in its production based upon scientific analysis, right? Now, when you say something and someone records it and they get part of it, and you at a dinner party or whatever, sounds like you just spouting gobbledygook. And of course, anything that anyone says directly about, especially Ashkenazi people, is going to be labeled anti-Semitic. You're going to be attacked. And of course, after that, shortly after that, we saw Mr. Kennedy having dinner with Rabbi Shmuley, right? He was called to the carpet by Rabbi Shmuley. But the point of this discussion is very simple. Even though Mr. Kennedy you could say, made to bow down to Mr. Shmuley and his friends, and you could say that Mr. Trump is very fond of Israel, that does not mean that all is forgiven and or the people whom we are discussing are in love and fans of and fond of Mr. Trump and Mr. Kennedy. In fact, due to their personalities and due to their passions about certain things, for example, Mr. Trump being America first and Mr. Trump being anti-war and being isolationist, that puts him in direct opposition with, really, if you think about it, it puts him in direct opposition with Mr. Netanyahu, who came to Washington and said that he wants the United States to destroy Iran. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very public about that. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Mr. Kennedy, who also, I believe, said he's anti-war, but has lately been more pro-Israel than he was before his meeting with Mr. Shmuley, is still talking about information that appears to lead back to the Mossad, right? And he's talking about reining in certain forces and big pharma and big agri, and many of these businesses, weirdly enough, happen to be owned by the type of people that we just happen to talk about. So just by them being passionate about the things they're passionate about and them doing what just comes natural to them, these people have made themselves some large and powerful enemies, even though we would normally think of somebody running for presidency and someone who comes from a political family, that a political dynasty, we would think of them as powerful people. But the people they're going against are much more powerful than them. So I don't know if their alliance is an alliance of let's try to keep each other alive. I don't know. I just find it fascinating, right? And, you know, a victory by Mr. Trump in this environment, it would be groundbreaking and earth-shattering. And it would be very interesting to see what moves would be made to try to check him and from implementing his agenda that we saw. What was that, Sunday? We went over his agenda, right? It would be interesting to see how that works. So I just wanted to go with that. And lastly, I wanted to get to, because I wanted to go and bypass these other articles. Let me see, am I going to bypass it? Well, no, I'm not going to bypass it. I'm going to go to this one because this one leads to the last one. So, all right, here we go. This is from Reason, which I had never heard of before yesterday. It says, is Pavel Durov, the man we started off with our discussion with, the next Julian Assange? Now, get to this real quick. It says that the French arrest and detention of Telegram co-founder Pavel Durov on poorly specified charges related to failures of content moderation and compliance with law enforcement is an outrage, and a reminder that, at least on the surface, Europe and the United States have fundamentally different approaches to unregulated speech that goes back centuries. Recall that John Milton's world-changing defense of an unlicensed press, Areopagitica, pointedly excluded Catholics while his former Cambridge classmate Roger Williams was living in what became Rhode Island and defending soul liberty for all people, paganish, Jewish, Turkish, or anti-Christian. It's interesting who's left out of that discussion of all people, but I digress. Bringing charges against, say, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk for failure to moderate content, maybe, but actually putting them in jail, however momentarily, seems unthinkable. But Durov's arrest should also serve as a reminder, even to Americans who have yet to jettison governance models that seek to command and control speech. Governments and in different and usually less effective and invasive ways, corporations and religions are still fighting a battle to control speech, freedom, and innovation, despite no possible ultimate victory. If it's not clear collusion and coercion exposed in the Twitter and Facebook files, okay, I guess I got to look into the Twitter and Facebook files, because I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. And the Backpage online advertising case is net neutrality and age verification to keep kids safe, or attacking anonymous speech or false speech, or Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act for letting too many people talk about too much stuff. Or it's about minimizing the reach of wholly invented categories of speech like misinformation and disinformation. When he first ran for president in 2016, Donald Trump wouldn't stop talking about how he wanted to open up our country's libel laws, the better to sue his critics. Tim Walz, the Democratic candidate for vice president and former social studies teacher, for crying out loud, wrongly believes that there's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, especially around our democracy. Well, that's absolutely false. All right, now hold on. Let's start right here. So Tim Walz, the vice presidential candidate of Kamala Harris, believes that there's no right to free speech, but he believes that children should have the right to have irreversible surgeries based around gender identity. Take all the time that you need to process the information that I just provided. Look, that's the vice presidential candidate for Kamala Harris saying that the First Amendment doesn't apply unless they wanted to apply. But your child can go have irreversible surgery because, why not? I mean, listen. What y'all think? Am I tripping? Anyway, let me go forward here. It says shutting down speech isn't a single thing pushed by a single person or group. It's a spectrum of many different sorts of actions ranging from brutish to the barely noticed. To make it more confusing, champions of free speech often reinvent themselves as opponents to it, especially when it comes to newly urgent or vital things like quote-unquote election integrity or quote-unquote science. Sometimes the entrepreneurs and innovators who help enable more speech start to backtrack when it behooves them or their shareholders to start calling for regulations on the very technology that they brought to the market. Hello, Mark Zuckerberg. All right, I'm going to move forward in this article because I want to get to the comparative between Mr. Durov and Julian Assange, if in fact it's here. Well, we got all of these articles. So we got, of course, they're talking about Durov from native of Russia, so forth, so on. And Branch has seen this French seen its free speech status slip over the past year after it banned TikTok in New Caledonia, and its interior minister called for a ban for pro-Palestinian rallies after October 7th attack on Israel. The distance from Julian Assange, who spent well over a decade in various forms of involuntary confinement after publishing government documents, to Durov is shorter than one might appear. And the trend always goes in one direction. The people who want to keep speech and information under lock and key go after the people who want to force transparency and hold space for more discussion. God help you if you create a way to share that information and discuss it without asking permission. One of the great fears post Gutenberg was the unlicensed press, a world in which all sorts of people could speak however they wanted, often with anonymity and always without permission. It's easy to see why that would freak out monarchies, governments, and the church. But the right way to say what you want to say without asking permission was what Milton, within his limits, was arguing about. And it's still what we are arguing about today. Those of us who came of age during the first flush of internet freedom thought for a moment that we had finally kicked free of the rotting husk of the old physical world and launched ourselves into the final destination that would be perfectly free. Government of the industrial world, you weary giants of flesh and steel, I come from cyberspace, the new home of mind, wrote John Perry Barlow in his 1996 documentary, A Declaration on the Independence of Cyberspace. You are not welcome among us. You have no sovereignty whether we gather. We are creating a world where anyone, anywhere, may express his or her beliefs, no matter how singular, without fear of being coerced into silence or conformity. Well, that person was wrong. Durov's arrest shows how wrong that sort of thinking is, and probably always will be. The fight for free speech and freedom in general will exist as long as humanity exists. And that brings us to our last article, because they pointed us in the direction of Julian Assange. And it says, WikiLeaks Assange pleads guilty to publishing U.S. military secrets and deal that secures his freedom. So what we're going to do here, we're going to watch this video on Julian Assange, and then we are going to read this article, and we're going to get ready to close out. So, all right, here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Let me pause the music. All right, here we go with the Julian Assange video.
After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters, as the WikiLeaks founder arrived flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
It was definitely a unique day in history for Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands.
Local reporter Tomas Manglona was inside the courtroom.
The minute Assange and his team walked in, everyone went silent. It's as if you could feel the gravity of the moment.
In a brief hearing, Mr. Assange pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to obtain and disclose national defence information.
Mr. Assange acknowledges that, of course, he accepted documents from Chelsea Manning and published many of those documents because it was in the world's interest that those documents be published. Unfortunately, that violates the terms of the Espionage Act.
This sets a dangerous precedent. This prosecution sets a dangerous precedent that should be of concern to journalists everywhere.
Free man, Mr. Assange.
The plea accepted by the judge, Julian Assange was sentenced to 5 years, time he'd already served inside the UK's high-security Belmarsh prison, meaning he was officially free.
WikiLeaks' work will continue, and Mr. Assange, I have no doubt, will be a continuing force for freedom of speech. He is a powerful voice and a voice that cannot and should not be silenced.
The United States has been pursuing Julian Assange since 2010, after he published classified information about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
We should condemn in the most clear terms the disclosure of any classified information by individuals and organizations which puts the lives of United States and partner service members and civilians at risk.
More than a decade after making this pledge from the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
To my family and to my children who have been denied their father, forgive me. We will be reunited soon.
His family is just happy to have him home.
I thought I might learn to do cartwheels again, you know. so light-hearted.
But he returns a convicted felon.
The result is good, personally. Institutionally, and for journalists everywhere outside the United States and in the United States, the deal is bordering on a disaster. I just hope he walks up and down the beach with the kids. That's enough. And I hope he rings up and says, "You want to come round to dinner?"
Assange's freedom has been in part credited to a long campaign by his supporters at home.
Assange home now! Assange home now!
And abroad.
Free, free Assange! Free, free Assange!
In particular, those in positions of power who ensured his plight stayed in the public consciousness.
At the end of the day, Julian Assange is a Walkley Award-winning Australian journalist who did his job. Today, on US territory, a precedent was set for the charging and conviction of a journalist for doing their job.
In recent years, he's had friends in Washington too.
I would like to think if the United States stands for anything, we stand for a free press, and we respect journalists, even when they report uncomfortable facts. And so he should never have been charged to begin with.
It's a disappointment again in our government that they forced him to make this guilty plea rather than recognizing that what he actually did is a service to American democracy.
Now, I just wanted to bring that up because, you know, it's been so long, I had almost forgotten that Julian Assange was even free. Like, but it just goes to show that. Now think about it. We haven't shown any black people. We haven't shown any poor people. We're talking about people who have wealth, have connections, powerful people. But it doesn't matter because the price that is paid for free speech is going to be high at a time where global hegemony and global dominion by a small group of people is the goal. And anyone who gets in the way of that is risking their life, right? And that's what we see. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think as black people, we take for granted how important free speech is. And our greatest people have paid the price with the shedding of their blood in order to tell the truth. Whether it was Malcolm X, you want to put Martin Luther King in there, Nat Turner, like any of our people that we took, our greats, it started off with them simply telling the truth and proceeded from there. So we're seeing now, not now, but we've seen in the last 4 years, particularly a strangulation of the core rights and principles that allegedly set America apart from other nations, and even allegedly set Western Europe, that makes Western Europe different from other nations. We see now that all that's thrown out the window, right? Not that it was ever real anyway, but it's even less real now than it was before. So, brother, you got ripped off. Says, how are NATO countries arresting people for crimes within NATO countries, yet Bush, Cheney, Obama, Rice, and other politicians are winning for war crimes and no arrests? Well, because they got connections to even higher people, you know. The whole neocon thing, that's a whole, oh man, that's a whole nother discussion. Here's what's interesting real quick. As more and more former Democrats are joining Mr. Trump, and when I find the article, I'll bring it up if I can find it. More and more neoconservatives are joining on with Miss Harris. So that means in reality that if you're anti-war and you don't want World War III, only 3 out of 4 people who are currently still running, as we talked about Monday, have in their platform that they're anti-war. One has not. And ironically, it's the Democratic candidate. They have not said that they are anti-war or against war. In fact, she said that she's going to make the military as the strongest it's ever been, or something like that, something to that effect. That's what Ms. Harris has stated. So that just goes to show you the bizarro world that we're currently in. So anybody that thinks that she's going to be less bellicose than Mr. Trump, good luck with that. So I just want to say quickly, as I said previously, the plan is to close out this month strong, because depending on the views and things that we get, will depend on how much content we push out for next month. You say most lethal, brother? Okay, most lethal, right. As I said, I don't know why we aren't getting the type of engagement that we had gotten previously. Not sure. We'll see how it works the rest of this week. We'll be coming on Thursday night at 9:00 for, of course, SPL Talk. That'll be on YouTube and on Instagram. Tomorrow night, I plan to come on at 8:00 again to finally get this discussion out the way about athletes and entertainers. I think now it's kind of more relevant now that we got more athletes and entertainers speaking out about their political position. We'll talk about why they don't actually do anything in the community, but provide lip service and tell us who we should vote for. So I've been pushing that show back probably for 2 months, and now all of a sudden it's more relevant than ever. So actually, yeah, you should get the notification for that tomorrow at 8:00. That probably won't be a long discussion, but I am going to do that. And I got some more videos set up to come up, I think Friday and Saturday. We're going to close the month out strong. So that's the plan, and we'll see how it goes after that. So again, you can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dcradical_ONE, on OTW2, which is a free speech Black-owned platform. We see how important that is at DC Radical 1, all one word. And you can donate to support the channel via Cashapp at $DC Radical 1. And of course, you can email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. So with that, brothers and sisters, thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate your support. If you know any friends that you think would like this content, let them know. We are still trying to get up over the 1K mark. We are, I believe, 91% of the way there. So, yeah, if you can help with that, we greatly appreciate it. Because again, our goal is to what? Get fully monetized or get deleted trying. And you talk about censorship, you're definitely well on your way to getting deleted. So with that, I say a BB for ODA and straight black pride. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $DC Radical1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for ODA and straight black pride.